Welcome to the Shekina Meditation Podcast, created by Shekina community members. Shekina communities are dedicated to creating free devotional spaces of Christian practice for spiritual seekers and travelers around the world. We post Christ-centered guided meditation each week to help you in your personal or small group practice. You can find episode, show notes, and other information at shekinacommunity.com. Hi there, this is Ray, and I'm by myself. Ro's away this week on a much-needed retreat, so it's just me today. It's a beautiful sunny day with incredibly blue skies after a lot of rain and white fluffy clouds, and I am feeling that coolness underneath the sunshine, and I'm in love with this weather, changing into the cool season. It's week 8 of the podcast, and kids, I am chuffed to be here. It's Friday, October 26th, as I record this, and it's been another very full week. It's packed with all the good things. What's been going on? Well, I drove a car full of teens to a youth retreat and back on the weekend. They were loud and lovely and drove me a little bit crazy, so I rested a bit in between and then was ready to bring them back. We did some thrift shopping at some of the used markets, and I did a little trip to find new chai cups for the garden. We haven't had enough, and the community lunches keep getting bigger. I think I wasn't there on Sunday because I was in Chiang Mai with the kiddos, but somebody told me there was maybe like 102 people or something at the last community lunch, which is normally our Christmas numbers, not our normal community lunch numbers. So I don't even know what kind of season we're in for, and we definitely needed more chai cups. So what else? On Monday, Neil guided Devotion Circle. He had a few questions for us about unconditional love and what it means, and it turned out to be a rich and complex topic. It's very interesting to think about conditions on love or no conditions on love and what that all means. Sometimes love flows, but it isn't received. Sometimes there aren't really conditions, but there are, like the fact that the person needs to be a person is a condition. I don't know, we always get into these definitions and go really deep, and there's a lot of people who speak different languages, and so we have people talking about the different words in their languages for love, and then we go into the Greek and Hebrew, and so it's really interesting. English is a tiny bit, I would say it's a bit poor when it comes to definitions of love, but I have some words for you, just a few, that you can think about when you think about God's love. Here are the words: tenderness, affection, and unrelenting goodwill. Maybe that will be helpful to you this week. We had meditation again. The meditation from this week is the one you're going to hear today. Neil guided. It was a very Neil full week as he guided Devotion Circle as well. So, and then Sarah from Germany guided dance meditation again, which I hear was amazing. I didn't make it, but it was beautiful. Kenya, my daughter, she's been really loving them, and a lot of people from around town. And then we gardened yesterday. We weeded, we pulled grass out of veggie beds, we turned the compost, we chopped down tree weeds, which is what I call the big weeds that turn into the size of trees here in Thailand. And then we hosted a bake sale to raise funds for Kwa Dao, which is a local charity that helps stateless kids. And a few people in our community are the ones responsible for helping to host that and to bake for it and stuff. So that was pretty fun. Around town, lots is going on. The walking street is getting full again. And they're building a new bridge. We have had to kind of walk the long way around or drive the long way around, but they're going to be building a new bridge right at our spot. So that's good too, because we have to cross the river to get to the garden. Yeah, I think that's all for the week. So this podcast is supported by you. Because this podcast is about meditation, we want to keep it ad-free. Our beloved patrons at patreon.com support us for as little as $1 a month, and patrons who pledge as little as $3 get extra audio every month. You can find us at patreon.com/Shekina Meditation Podcast. Supporting the podcast helps to keep Shekina communities running and free for travelers and spiritual seekers, and it helps us to know that you appreciate what we're doing and putting the podcast into the world. Thank you this week to our new patron, Matt Tresser. Patrons, you are the best. You make me want to rain moonbeams down upon you, and if it was at all possible, I would do just that. Maybe you can just wait till the next time there's a really shiny moon and go stand in a moonbeam and pretend that it's from us. Today's meditation is an imagination meditation on Luke 10, verses 25 to 37 with Neil, recorded live at Shekina Garden in Thailand. The meditation will have 3 parts. During the first, Neil will offer some guidance to bring your heart and mind into a quiet state and prepare for meditation. During the second part, you can be completely free to use your imagination and creativity to become a part of the story somehow, however you feel like doing that, as a fly on the wall, or as a character in the story, or whatever it is that you feel like doing. Really try to imagine what's going on in the meditation. And for the third part, you can either journal your experience or share it with others in a small group. This really helps to solidify the experience, and it's good to try to listen well in a circle without interrupting or correcting one another. A talking stick or something to indicate who is sharing can help with this if you need help. Let's begin. Christ-centered meditation is about creating space in our minds. It is a time of quiet that allows room for the Spirit of God to speak to our hearts. We learn to master our thoughts and come back to a place of focus, again and again, to be quiet before the divine presence of God, and to spend time with a single thought or idea. Meditation is a Christian practice like prayer or study, worship or fasting. As with all practices, there are easy and hard days. But as we bring this practice into our lives, we grow with it over time. We learn to love this spacious place with God, who invites us to grow in the silence with Him. If you find that you are distracted and need to keep drawing yourself back to your focus, do not be discouraged. This is the muscle that you are exercising with meditation. And I believe that this act of refocusing is the heart of meditation. Be kind and encouraging to yourself as you practice. You can follow along alone or with others in a quiet place, outdoors or at home. A quick warning: we don't recommend meditating while driving. Be safe.
The style of meditation that I will do this morning is, I guess, an adaptation of what's been practiced for hundreds of years, even like over a millennia. The style will be an imagination meditation. So when you hear the word meditation, you might think it's more like an Eastern philosophy style or Eastern spirituality style of meditation. But Christ-centered meditation is a little different. The idea is to, I guess put simply, is to hear the words of God in the presence of God. Yeah, and in this imagination meditation, I'd like you to try to use your imagination to enter into the story. I'll give you questions to think about and prompts to help engage your imagination. And to find yourself in the story and to follow along as the story unfolds. It'll be helpful to give you some a bit of historical background as well. In this story, there is a few characters. There is someone who's called an expert in the law. And this person is, I guess, like a lawyer these days. Someone who knows the law, but it's the religious law at the time. And like an upstanding citizen, like a doctor or a lawyer, you know, someone who's trained a lot, who might be respected in society, and it's thought that person knows what they're talking about, you know, has a high social standard. And in their interaction with Jesus and this expert in the law, Jesus tells a story, and he introduces three other characters. A priest, which you could say is the priests that you know these days. You know, he's supposed to be morally upright, connecting people with God. They kind of know what is right and what is wrong. And then he mentions a Levite, which is like, maybe like a person who helps in the temple. Similar to the priest, but a different role. Again, supposed to know what is good and what is bad, the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do. And then he mentions a Samaritan. Now, in that time when Jesus was walking the planet, the relationship between the Israelites and the Samaritans was not good. There was a rivalry there, and they hated each other. There was a cultural hatred between the two, and they didn't associate with each other at all. So it's good to know these four characters: the expert in the law, the priest, the Levite, and the Samaritan. That will help you to understand the story as we go through it and maybe picture them a bit more. I think that's good. So meditation is a practice. If you are new to it, that's okay. Engage with it as much as you feel comfortable, as much as you can. There's no judgment here. If you need to, there's no strict rule about sitting straight or still. If you need to move around, that's fine. If you need to go to the toilet, it's over there. But as we begin, I invite you to find a comfortable position and just begin to breathe and close your eyes as well. Just breathing normally and comfortably. Maybe shifting around a little bit to get a little bit more comfortable where you're sitting. If you need to stretch, then feel free to do that. All the while, just feeling your breath enter in and then going out. Begin to focus on each sensation that you have as you breathe. The coolness of the air as it goes in through your nose and into your lungs. And the warmth of it as it comes out again. Maybe as your clothes move as you breathe, feel those sensations as well. Perhaps as you focus on these sensations, you begin to feel in your body some aches and pains or stiff muscles. Maybe start to breathe a little deeper, and maybe into those spaces, those places in your body that are stiff or sore. Breathe down into your hips, or breathe down into your back or shoulders, or into your knees, or as far down into your toes if you can. And as you breathe, try to relax. Perhaps imagine in your mind the little tendrils of breath spreading out through your body as you breathe in and breathe out. And as your breath falls back into a steady rhythm, take your right hand and place it on your chest, just below your neck. And feel for your heart, the beating of your heart. Our hearts beat all by themselves without any real conscious effort from us. So as you feel the rhythm of your breath and the rhythm of your heart, I invite you to appreciate them as the gifts that they are. Normally, our breaths and our hearts, they beat all by themselves. Without them, we would not be here. They are gifts. So I invite you to be grateful, to be thankful, to offer a prayer of thanks to the divine for your heart beating and for your breath. And in this sense of thankfulness, I invite you to begin to create a space of welcome for the divine, the Holy Spirit of God. The scriptures say that God is not very far from all of us. So I invite you to welcome that Spirit of God into this space. So place your hand down and begin to listen to the sounds around you. Our story this morning will take us to a very distant land in a very distant time. But some of the sounds around us would have been similar to that time. So begin to focus on each individual sound that you hear, be it natural sounds of birds or the wind, or man-made sounds, such as people at work. Focus on each sound and move from one to the other. What is the most distant sound that you can hear? What does it look like? What about the nearest sound? Imagine in your mind, how is it making that sound? It's not unusual during a meditation like this for our minds to begin to wander. So these sounds around us can be helpful. They can be signposts to point us back into the meditation. So if you do find your mind wandering, it's then use those sounds. And come back to your breath. So imagine in your mind now, traveling to a distant land in a distant time, the land of Israel, almost 2,000 years ago. Perhaps in a small village. What do you see? What does the village look like? The trees, the surrounding hills or fields. Do you see people and animals? What do they look like? What about the sounds and smells? Is the wind cool or is the sun hot? Make your picture rich with detail. It was common for Jesus to walk from village to village. He spent a lot of time walking, and a crowd would walk with him. And so imagine Jesus walking to this little village with his disciples and with a crowd. And what do they look like? And sometimes more prominent people within the community would come to Jesus. And this is where our story begins. But one last question. Where are you in this story, in this picture? Are you a bird watching from above? Are you one of the crowd? Are you Jesus? Where are you? On one occasion, an expert in the law came up to test Jesus. What does he look like? How does the crowd react to him? How do you feel the mood is amongst this group of people? Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus replied, what is written in the law? How do you read it? The expert in the law replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all of your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. What do you see? You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. How does the expert in the law react? What about the crowd? But the expert in the law wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? And in reply, Jesus said, Jesus told a story. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. What do you see? What do these robbers look like? What about the man? How does he feel? The robbers stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be walking down that same road, and when he saw the man half dead, he passed on the other side. What do you see? What does the priest look like? What do you suppose he's thinking? So too a Levite, as he travelled, came to where the man was. And when he saw him, he passed on the other side. What does this Levite look like? And what do you suppose he is thinking? But a Samaritan, as he travelled, came to where the man was. And when he saw him, he took pity on him. What does the Samaritan look like? The Samaritan went to the man and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. He then put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. How does this play out in your imagination? The next day, the Samaritan took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." How does this story that Jesus tells make you feel? Jesus then asked the expert in the law, "Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." What do you see? As this story comes to an end, still imagine in your mind the crowd and that you are there amongst them. You see the expert in the law go away. The crowd is now talking amongst themselves about this interaction, talking about what it means. And Jesus is momentarily by himself. And with you there's an opportunity now to speak with Jesus. If you were to take this opportunity, what would you say? How would you respond to Jesus from what the expert in the law has said and what Jesus has said? I invite you to take that opportunity now. And perhaps listen for a response. As this part of the meditation comes to an end, Come back to your breath. Just breathe. Come back to that sensation of breath. Draw yourself out of the imagination.
When you are ready, take a few deep breaths and begin your time of journaling or sharing with others. Thank you for joining today. There will be a new guided meditation each week, so don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or sign up for our newsletter to get podcasts delivered to your inbox at www.shekinacommunity.com/podcast newsletter. Have a beautiful week. Blessings to you.